Why do you seek the living among the dead? He is not here. He is risen. Amen. You are not a machine. This is your life, the only life you will have. What a blessing it is to be together today. It just fills my heart with joy. We are going through so much outside the walls of this church. So much is happening, so much change. And what a gift it is to come together, to come back home to ourselves again in a sacred place like this. It is hard to be human these days, isn't it? So much conspires to make us less than human. At 8:30 in the morning this morning at the early service, I had a 1,000-person focus group on my earlier version of the sermon. And I talked about the role that AI, artificial intelligence, is playing in the restructuring of government all around us, about how in the not very distant future, many people will have closer relationships with artificial intelligent chatbots than with real people. But I'm not going to talk about that today, here. Instead, I want to remind you just how precious it is to be human. We may use metaphors to describe computers having memory, as if their electronic circuits were something like ours. But there's a fundamental difference, and that's what I want to talk about today. Because when we're in the habit of thinking of machines as human, then we begin to think of humans as being like machines. And that is one of the greatest mistakes that we can ever make. One of my favorite intellectual developments over the last 40 years is the beginning of what people call behavioral economics. Daniel Kahneman once described himself jokingly as the grandfather of behavioral economics, and he went on to write about it in a book that many of you may have seen. It was called Thinking Fast and Slow. So in the 1970s, Kahneman said that people generally believed that first, people were generally rational, and that second, emotions were the way that you described why people deviated from that rationality. He writes, quote, "You believe you know what's going on in your mind, which often consists of one conscious thought leading to another. But that is not the only way the mind works. We have predictable unconscious biases. Our behavior can be nudged in ways that are completely beyond our awareness." Now, my point is that Daniel Kahneman has had a huge impact on how we understand human experience, what it means to be alive. And yet, in March of last year, he flew to Switzerland, where he died by assisted suicide. Now, although he was 90 years old, he was in reasonably good health. He was still active in research, and he was certainly capable of participating in family life. A few days before his death, interviewers with whom he had shared his plans asked him if these were sufficient reasons for him to stay alive. And this is how he responded. "I feel I've lived my life well, but it's a feeling. I'm just reasonably happy with what I've done. I would say if there is an objective point of view, then I am totally irrelevant to it. If you look at the universe and the complexity of the universe, what I do with my day cannot be relevant." I felt so sad when I learned about Kahneman's feelings of his irrelevance and disconnection. Our philosophy can kill us. So Easter is not about a past event. It is how God meets us right now, in our circumstances, in our day. It is about how we become human again. Today, we remember the story of the first Christian sermon. A group of 3 women and their friends report on their strange experience at Jesus' tomb. And I'm going to talk today about 3 important words from that ancient account and about what it means to be human. First, perplexed. The women at the tomb are perplexed. In Greek, the word is aporeo. And in Greek, a passage is aporos. Aporos is no passage. There's no way, no pathway, no way to get through. It's impassable. And it's related to our word aporia. It's kind of a technical, philosophical word. The dictionary definition of it is an irresolvable inner contradiction or logical disjunction in a text, argument, or theory. And for those of you who might think in these terms, it's like when someone from the island of Crete tells you that all Cretans are liars, right? There's a way which you can never get to the bottom of a statement like that. And in a way, that represents what it means to be human for us. We never quite get to the bottom of things. And I'm going to tell you why right now. We will never fully understand the interior life of the people who are around us. We will never understand their suffering. And at the same time, we were made to be in communion with these utter free beings who we all are. And we will never quite know what our life means to others. When I first fell in love with my wife, Heidi, I felt like I'd always known her, that I'd been waiting for her all along. The theologian Karl Barth writes about knowing another person in this way, that we exist in this kind of encounter. When we know what we love, we know who we are. He says, I have waited for thee before I knew thee, before thou didst encounter me. I had known thee. The encounter with something strange, the encounter with thee is not, therefore, the encounter with something strange which disturbs me, but with a counterpart which I have lacked, and without which I may be empty and futile. And that's what we are. We come to our full sense, our full understanding of ourselves in connection with another person. The writer Anne Lamott writes about the meaning of Easter for her. She says, when I was 38, my best friend Pammy died. And we went shopping 2 weeks before, and she was in a wig and in a wheelchair, and I was buying a dress for this boyfriend I was trying to impress, and I bought a tighter, shorter dress than I was used to. And I said to her, do you think this makes my hips look big? And she said to me so calmly, Anne, you don't have that kind of time. And I think Easter has been the resonance of that simple statement. You have time only to cultivate presence and authenticity and service. That's how it changed me. That was the day my life changed. 2, depths. The Easter story begins in what the gospel describes as the depths of early morning. Luke uses the Greek word bathos, which is the same word that's related to our word bathysphere, the little kind of submarine that goes all the way down to the bottom of the ocean. What is deep is another central part of being human. The theologian Paul Tillich writes that you will not find eternal joy merely by living on the surface of things. He says you have to listen to the voices that speak in our depths and to our depths. And he says, forget everything traditional that you have heard about God. The name of this depth is God. It is the word God means. It is the infinite and inexhaustible depth and ground of all being. C.S. Lewis says that our experiences of this depth are what he calls joy. They give us an insight into this depth. Joy is not the same thing as happiness or pleasure. It is a momentary experience, and it is also a kind of longing for something like it that is beyond our control. We cannot make ourselves experience this kind of joy. So last week I was rereading his biography, Surprised by Joy, just to help prepare to speak to you about this today. And it's hard to talk about these kinds of experiences, but often we find that when we tell someone about an experience of transcendence that we've had, we see that they've had some kind of experience like that themselves. And so for homework this week, I'm going to encourage you to talk about one of those moments of joy, that moments of meaning with somebody who you care about. Give it a shot, and if you have great results, then send me an email about it. In Lewis's case, these moments of joy came from childhood. He said that at one point, he was moved by the smell of the flowering currant bush in the family garden. That another time, he was reading about the way that autumn was depicted in a book by Beatrix Potter. And a final time was when he was reading a section of a Longfellow poem about a realm beyond existence. It just shows you never know when joy is going to happen. In her book, A Pilgrim at Tinker Creek, Annie Dillard writes about how horrifying nature can be with its teeming swarms of parasites that consume other creatures. But then she describes her own fleeting experience of depth. And this is what she writes. When her doctor took her bandages off and led her into the garden, the girl who was no longer blind saw the tree with the lights in it. It was for this tree I searched through the peach orchards of summer, in the forests of fall, and down winter and spring for years. Then, one day I was walking along Tinker Creek, thinking of nothing at all, and I saw the tree with the lights in it. I saw the backyard cedar where the mourning doves roost, charged and transfigured, each cell buzzing with flame. It was like seeing less like seeing than like being seen for the first time, knocked breathless by a powerful glance. Gradually, the lights went out in the cedar, the colors died, the cells unflamed and disappeared. I was still ringing. I had been my whole life a bell and never knew it until at that moment I was lifted and struck. I have since only very rarely seen the tree with the lights in it. The vision mostly comes and goes, but I live for it. 3, living. The angel at the tomb says, "Why do you seek the living among the dead?" The word is zao. It means to live. It's related to our word zoology. Our former dean, Alan Jones, used to ask, "What truth do you want to become by the end of your life?" He said that as a child, his daughter used to ask him if it would be all right. And he didn't know what it was, but he said that it would be all right and wondered if he was telling the truth or not. But over the years, he began to realize that our life will turn out right when we realize that it is a gift from God. During the pandemic, while sheltering in place, Rowan Williams, the Archbishop, wrote about how when famous people like Daniel Kahneman are interviewed, they are asked how they would like to be remembered, invited to think of the achievements they would have liked to have piled up for themselves by the end of their lives. And this is what he said: "What if the point of all we achieve, all we succeed in, is to teach us to receive more deeply and peacefully, as if what we need to produce by the time of our death is just childlike simplicity, being able at last just to be welcomed, to be embraced by the real that we've so long neglected and even run away from. Whatever life is on the far side of death, it's a reasonable guess that it is not like anything we could have imagined. It could not be another episode in the great drama of myself, my busy, worried, ambitious, talkative, fearful self." Today I've talked about how we are humanized through the mystery of encountering another person, by the experience of depth that we call joy, and the realization that living is learning to receive God's grace. I want to just share one postscript because the sermon's pretty much over. And this is the postscript. Last week, we had Anna Lapwood come and play a concert here on the organ, and it was sold out because she is world famous. And you're probably thinking to yourself, I didn't realize that organists were world famous. Well, she is. And so she posted about that concert on Instagram, and 8.4 million people saw the post. And let me describe what the post was about. The concert was amazing, and all of us left here feeling so alive because she's like a ball of energy. She's like so enthusiastic about what she does, and she made us feel something really profound and deep. So this man and this woman get on the California #1, the bus that's right outside the cathedral, and they ride along. They're like, wow, was that the best concert or what? And they're so engaged in their conversation with each other that they just lose track of where they are and what time it is. And the guy's like, oh my gosh, that's my stop. I got to get off, and gets off the bus. And the two are gone, separated forever. There's no way for them to find each other. And so the man goes and he writes a letter to Anna Lapwood and says, could you post this on your Instagram account? Because I really would like to meet this woman who was in the bus, and I wanted to know what my phone number is. And so she posted it. And she posted the two letters that they both wrote side by side. Yeah, and they found each other, and they're probably right in the 4th row or something. And I love to think of that story because I imagine God seeking us in the same kind of way. When we look at the world, we see so much viciousness and cruelty around us, so many ways that people are being treated as less than human. We are even unkind to ourselves. But life is too short for this. We are so much more than our accomplishments, so much more than our other people's opinions of us. We are like bells waiting to be rung by the one who seeks us, by the depth which is God. You are not a machine. This is your life, the only life you will have.